Well, it's been a great Fearless Fest so far, and there's so much more coming up. I want to bring up our next act, not act. That's a bird, I think. Dean Johnson.
Thank you very much. How about another hand for Jason? Doing such a good job. It's the first time I've ever seen him cry. I've known him for about 15 years now, and always great. Hi, how are you? Stefan. Yeah? Oh, yeah, that's good. Well, good. Well, Stefan, how about a hand for... For me, this is like old home week. Well, everything is like old home week for me. Karen Pickering was just on. Didn't you love Karen? Yeah. And I first met Karen, well, 35 years ago, maybe 40, when she was just a little girl. And as she mentioned this show, What's So Funny About Being Female, I was in that. Really, I was the token male. What's so funny about being female? And it's so great to still be on the same stage with Karen Pickering after all that time has gone by. Because now, the last time I was on stage with her, it was just only a few, well, I wasn't on with her, but just a couple of months ago, there was a show at the Monday Night Comedy Show, and it was live streamed like that. We're live streaming, aren't we? All over the, isn't that, hello world? You know? And Karen Pickering was on this show, and I was on the show, and I think I was about the second or third act on the show. And so then, after that, you know, I went home because, well, it's my bedtime, you know. And so I went home, but I always check my computer before I go to bed, see what's going on. There was the show live streaming. And Karen Pickering was on. So I watched that for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden she was doing her usual kind of storytelling, and all of a sudden she stopped the way you do when you can't really think of what you're going to say, and she says, you know, Dean Johnson is older than me by many years. Which was true, you know, but I had already gone home. I mean, there must have been about an hour since I was on it. I thought, who even remembers me? And Karen Pickering. Oh, yeah. It is, you know, I'm going to take this. Oh, yeah, you can see how I look now. Would you like to see how I used to look? This is how I used to look. I don't know, probably about 25, 30 years ago or something, that's how I looked. And would you like to see how I looked a long time before that? Mike, would you bring that out? I have my portrait.
Be happy to, Dean.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's have a hand for Mike. He stays out there. This is a portrait of me that was made 52 years ago. I'm the one on the right. That was from the 1971 production of Harvey, the play Harvey, and I was Elwood P. Dowd. And that was, yeah, there you are. And this is how I look now. This is a old home week because this week, on Wednesday, Wednesday will be my last day of living in my house because I sold the house and we're going to have the closing on Thursday. And I have lived in that house for 35 years. This is 1988. And imagine living in a house in one place for 35 years. And I've decided that I'm never going to do that again. I'd be 109 years old. That's not going to happen. I sold the house in the best way that I could have done it because, well, let me put it to you this way. If you, say you're living somewhere and you go out and you get around and you buy things, you know. Now, if you just bought one little thing each day, by the end of 1 year, you have 365 things. If you do that for 35 years, there's no room for you in the house anymore. So I thought, how am I ever going to get out of this house? So I sold the house as is, with everything that I leave in it that this poor new guy is going to inherit. You know. But so 35 years, I'm going to leave the house, and I'm going to move out of town to this nearby town, St. Paul. Yeah. And I'm going to live on the 18th floor of a building, and I'm going to have a beautiful view of the state capitol. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. I feel very fortunate and also nostalgic. This theater is one of the first places I ever went to see a show when I first came to Minneapolis in 1974, I guess it was, 3 or 4. And this was at that time called Dudley Riggs Theater. Yeah. You remember Dudley? Yeah. But I actually came to town to work at Dudley Riggs' other theater over on Seven Corners. It was called Dudley Riggs Cafe Espresso, and I was in a play over there, and that's why I came to Minneapolis, because I had friends that were in that play, and somebody had quit, and they called me up and said, okay, could you come and play a part in the play? And then I was too lazy to leave. Been here all that time. And one day I was in here and Dudley Riggs himself stood on the stage. Well, it was somewhere, the stage has been moved. It's much bigger now, but he sat on the stage anyway, and he told stories about how this place got started, you know. And what he had another theater on East Hennepin Avenue way back in the early 60s. And suddenly they got evicted. That will happen to theaters, you know, people, actors and comedians, you know, suddenly you're gone and you left the place as is, you know. So Dudley said that they were suddenly without a place to perform, and they loaded everything into a truck and started down the road not knowing where they were going to go. But they stopped across the street from this place to a restaurant and had a cup of coffee, and one of the guys looked over and said, say, there's a sign across the street that says for rent. And they came across the street here and set up, rented the place, and set up the scenery and everything, whatever they had, and put on a show that night, I think, and they never missed a show. He said even the day that President Kennedy was shot. They didn't close down. Every other theater did, but they just felt like the show must go on. I don't know why the show must go on. I mean, really, not everything else has to go on, but why the show? You know? But that's what they do. He was a circus performer. Dudley Riggs was a circus performer before he got into owning these little theaters. And he was an acrobat. And I used to, when I worked, I did many, many shows at that other theater, which was called the Cafe Espresso. And Dudley told me all kinds of stories. He told me how he got into having the Cafe Espresso, which at that time seemed very, very special because nobody was selling espresso, but he had this espresso machine that was made of brass and copper, and it was shining and huge, and it made a big noise when they let the steam in out of it to make espresso, and so it was very special. He got into the espresso business because somebody owed him money. They didn't have any money, so they gave him that machine. And he took it home with him, and his wife said, "Get that machine out of here." So he went into the espresso business. And he said, and he stood here on the stage and talked about it, and he said, and we got out of the espresso business just before it became popular. He had wonderful stories about being in the circus, and I think the one I remember best, he was an acrobat, and he on a flying trapeze. And the thing is, he was a big, tall man. And as a matter of fact, I diverge for a second, but I used to be a tall man. And I went to the doctor, and they said, "How tall are you?" This was last year. And I said, "Well, I'm 6'1". And they said, "Oh, well, let's check that." And it's apparently I have lost 2 3/4 inches in height. I almost said length. But I'm still all right there. Not nearly as often, but anyway, I digress. So Dudley was a big, tall man on the flying trapeze, and he said he really wasn't made to be they call him a flyer, he said, because he was so tall, and he said most of the good trapeze artists are small and light, and they can swing around and do a lot of things that were difficult for him. But he had a good catcher, the man that caught them when they would come flying way up in the circus tent, and then the guy would catch him, and he said that guy could catch me, and he could catch me by the feet and straighten me out and send me up, and I looked great, you know. He said, but the only thing about that guy is that all the time he was drunk. But he said he said you could come in and you could hit him with your feet in the face, and it didn't bother him. He'd grab you, straighten you out, and send you off, and he was fabulous. But he was drunk. He said, the way Dudley, he had a slow boil on all the time. But then one day, the guy came to do the show, and he said, well, I've decided I have to quit drinking. I'm through drinking. It's just gonna kill me. And so the show started, and Dudley came in, and the guy dropped him, and he fell 60 feet, I think, and I don't think there was a net, and he So he was in a body cast for 6 months after that. And that's the big punchline of that story. But that was Dudley Riggs. Would you like to hear a song? As long as I like to make up my own. I'm going to do this. See if I can lower this down. Oh, of course. You have to do that. Oh, okay. All right. See, that way. You can hear that, can't you? Yeah. Of course you can. I like to make up my own songs. And when I first came to Minneapolis, I came from a small town in western New York, small city called Jamestown, New York. And when I moved here, not only did I not know my way around, of course, never having lived here before, I was completely naive about how to figure out how to find my way around. I did things, I waited for a bus on the wrong side of the street. You know, and the bus came, but he was going the opposite direction of where I wanted to go. You know, I was trying to go downtown to apply for a job, and I ended up in Hopkins. And I've pretty much been out of work ever since. It's time I found a job, isn't it? Well, so I wrote this song about the way my first days in Minneapolis were. It's called New in Town. I went walking through the town, hands in my pockets and my head hung down. Took a wrong bus to the wrong part of town. Never got home until the sun went down. And the buses and the taxis and the railroad trains, Big Mac trucks changing lanes. A police car's just been called out. His siren is a-blowing my poor brains out. Pardon me, miss, I did not know I was standing on your toe. My face turned as white as snow when the little old lady told me where to go. And the buses and the taxis and the railroad trains, Big Mac trucks changing lanes. A police car's just been called out. His siren is a-blowing my poor brains out. That's how it is when you're new in town. You gotta try to smile if you only want to frown. People seem to treat you like you're some kind of clown, and you can't get away from the terrible sound of the buses and the taxis and the railroad trains, Big Mac trucks changing lanes. A police car's just been called out. His siren is a-blowing my poor brains out. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't sing these songs very often anymore, but I made up a song 40 some years ago, and it seems to always be a current event. And it's called the Atom Bomb Song. By the way, how about this atomic water that's coming down here from Monticello? Isn't that something? Did you hear about that? They found out that it was leaking out of the pipe, and they didn't want to let anybody know because they didn't think it was important. But anyway, back in those days, back in the 60s and the 50s, way back before anyone of you probably remembers, there was a big anti-nuclear movement going on, and then we had wars and things. I've been worrying about nuclear war my whole life. So I made up a song, and it goes, I wrote a letter to the chairman, Department of Defense. all about the goings on behind my side yard fence. I've got a lot of neighbors and they're all doing wrong, but I know they'd all respect me if I had an atom bomb. So please send me one atom bomb, just to keep my neighborhood calm. I don't want to blow it, I just want to show it off. The town will be so quiet they'll think twice before they'll cough. A machine gun in my basement, out and back an M1 tank, a padlock and police alarm guard my piggy bank. I don't even go outdoors without my lead-proof vest, but a nuclear deterrent would really be the best. So please send me one atom bomb, just to keep my neighborhood calm. I don't want to show it, I just want to, I don't want to blow it, I just want to show it off. That would have been the opposite, wouldn't it? I don't want to show it, I just want to blow it up. No. Well, it seems that every country all around this world has a nuclear weapon for every boy and girl. I don't need a big supply, all I want is one. I can keep it in my attic if it weighs less than a ton. So please send me one atom bomb. Yeah. You're very kind. Am I done at 2:25? Is that about it?
You still have time. You still have time, Dean.
Still have like 2 minutes? Or, well, then I'm going to sing another song, because what else would I? This is, you know about the world's largest ball of twine. Darwin, Minnesota. I went up there. You can see the ball of twine. It's free. And you can get souvenirs about the ball of twine. Go to the Twine Ball Days Festival up there. I wrote a song about the ball of twine. In Darwin, Minnesota, not very far away, a farmer was a bundling and a baling up some hay. He said, this piece of string is mine, I cannot waste a dime. I'm gonna save it all, someday I'll have a ball. It's the world's largest twine ball in the whole darn USA. It's the world's biggest ball of twine. I improvised that. What more can I say? You can buy a twine ball shot glass, twine ball coffee cup, your own little miniature twine ball, they'll be glad to make one up. You can buy a twine ball bookmark and a twine ball pencil too. You can buy all the twine ball stuff you want, it's between your bank and you. It's the world's biggest ball of twine. What more can I say? Twine ball beer glass, twine ball shot glass, twine ball coffee cup, twine ball bat, twine ball cap, twine ball this, twine ball that, twine ball calendar, twine ball poster, twine ball coaster, twine ball. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all very much. It was really fun to be here. Thank you. Thank you all.
Keep it going for Dean Johnson. That was great.